You're kidding?
I don't know.
And so I had to get an airplane. I lived in Vancouver at the time. So I took my bass player, Richard Cochran, and Tal came and played drums. It was amazing. So here's Tal telling you the first time he met Neil Young, who I've known since I was 15 or 16.
Okay, you want to hear a quick Neil Young story?
Yeah!
It's not really a story as much as a moment. We'll see if you can live that moment with me because it's emblazoned in my brain. So, as Dad said, we flew down to California. We went to Neil's ranch, and when we arrived, Neil wasn't around. I think he was playing with his trains. He has a lot of electric trains.
He bought Lionel trains.
He bought Lionel trains, and he had an entire
Not the train, the company.
the toy train company. And he had an entire outbuilding on this giant ranch that was only trains. Okay, it was like train tracks, and I think Neil was in there watching his trains. Anyway, we showed up and we set up in the recording studio. The recording studio was actually an old barn, an old plywood barn with a platform at one side of the barn. So we all set up. There were bales of hay there to kind of absorb some of the sound. So it was very, very rustic. And even the recording machine, if you remember this thing, you remember that? It was like an old 2-inch tape analog recording machine with like a single knob on it. I mean, so it was very, very primitive. Like you would never have believed it was Neil Young's place. So we all set up, got ready to record with Neil. The engineers ran outside and chased all the goats and the chickens away because they would make noise and the mics would pick them up. So they had to chase all the livestock away, and then they got on the walkie-talkies and called for Neil to show up. So I remember I was sitting on the drums like right where Coco is, and I could see right to the back of the barn, I could see the doorway, and everyone was waiting for Neil to arrive. And all of a sudden I saw a figure in the doorframe. It was the silhouette of Neil. I could see he was backlit, and he kind of walked into the room, and he kind of had this aura. And here's what the aura was. It was a cross between Jack Nicholson on The Shining, with the hair and the sideburn, Yoda, and Jim Ignatowski from Taxi. You put those three together. And so he came in all his Neilness, and he just looked at Dad and he was like, "Hey, Randy," and Dad said hello, and he kind of nodded, and we ripped into a song, and then we played the song, and then we played another song for 15 minutes, and
he said, "That's it," and he left.
Yeah. And so I sort of
we did a song called Made in Canada. Where in the ending, I kept looking at Tal, because we're giving signals here about do that again, here's the ending, and I kept saying to Tal, this has got to be the ending. But if you ever see Neil do a guitar solo, he goes into this trance and he kind of moves around and he faces the drummer and he just plays forever. So I kept nodding to Tal, like maybe we'd end the song, and he's still going. And it went on, it's like 12 minutes long, but it's the greatest guitar solo in the world, kind of like watching Jimi Hendrix.
He played guitar notes that no one else has ever heard before or since. He was all over the place. Anyway.
So a few years ago, I got invited to LA to Neil Young's 70th birthday party. Wow. It's at the Troubadour, right where everybody played in the 60s and 70s, Joni Mitchell and Elton John and Crosby, Stills, Nash. So it's at the Troubadour, which is a tiny little place. It's about not even half the size of this, but it's cool and hip. So we go there, and Neil we lived in Winnipeg, and Neil lived on Route 70 that went right through Winnipeg, and he was turning 70. So I called the city of Winnipeg, and I said, I want a highway sign that says Route 70. He said, I said, no, it's for Neil Young's birthday. Oh, okay. So I got this big green sign that's got 70 with a crest on it, and I gave it to Neil for his birthday, his 70th birthday. And I wrote on the back, I've been there and done that, welcome to the 70s. And at his party, he says to me, I have a couple of friends that want to meet you. Who's that? Graham Nash and Stephen Stills. So I met Graham before. I say, hi, Graham, and I get to meet Stephen Stills, who I have thought was the greatest guy. Because when I left Winnipeg with the Guess Who in the mid-60s, we went on and had Shaken Over and all our hits. Neil Young went and met Stephen Stills at Thunder Bay, and then went to LA and started Buffalo Springfield, which was one of my favorite bands. They were like country rock. That was the greatest. 3 lead singers, 3 writers, 3 guitar players. They were fantastic. So I get to meet Stephen Stills, and I say, man, you've been such an influence on my life, and congratulations on such a great life of music. And he said, thank you very much. I said, you have no idea how many things I've stolen from you. And he said, yes, I have. Go. Here it is. 3, 4.
no, 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 no.